Eduardo.
I'd like to comment on that because I think I have a different understanding of what the President has proposed. As a matter of fact, if you ask the superintendent of Miami-Dade schools in Broward County, the opposite is happening of what the schools have been subjected up to now, because the recommended process by the President, which has been just announced, basically gives the states and local school boards more control and more responsibility for fixing schools. It's a total opposite of the no child left behind. And we cannot forget that the responsibility for education is in the hands of the local communities and the states. It's not a federal responsibility. The role of the federal government has to be one of providing incentive, providing financial support, etc. And frankly, we should not wait for the state or even the state to fix our problems here. We need to fix them. And I totally agree with you. There are too many unfunded mandates. I have to deal with those every day. But the problems will not be fixed unless we're able to, get our local leadership here more accountable. And I hate to insist on that, but, it's my life. I deal with that every day. And when it comes to the business community, we have shining examples here of institutions, businesses that are very generous and contribute. That's very little money compared to what the needs are. And I'm not saying that is their responsibility. That's why we pay taxes, to be able to fix a school. But frankly, the problem that we have is that we have legislators and local officials that do what they want to do, and there are no consequences, and nobody holds them accountable. Not the chamber, not me, not you, and they keep doing because they get away with it. And something has to change.
Linda, your comments?
Well, I would also take a little different view from my colleague all the way on the other side, in that I really think that tax dollars really need to go to our public schools. And when a company is not paying their taxes to support our public schools, that is taking away support from our public schools. And you can say, okay, well, it's one child, and we're only paying $3,000 for the state is only paying $3,000 for them, and when you take them out of a classroom, the school district is not losing, as much money, but they are. You can't, just because you take one child out of the school doesn't mean that that class can take away part of that teacher. You still have the same teacher in there. You still have the same infrastructure. And so I think businesses' responsibility is much more, as the president of Miami-Dade said, is to advocate and to provide out of their own funding venture capital rather than to divert their tax funds into private institutions that educate our children. Not that they're not useful, but really the public schools are where the public school money should go.
Maria.
Well, what I like about this renewed discussion, and it's been around for a while, right, about whether we should have new national standards around education, et cetera, is that at least it keeps the issue at the forefront. And if there's any value in President Obama, I see no value in unfunded mandates, by the way, personally. But in him bringing this up, I think it's elevating a discussion and engaging the community at every level as to what we need in order to be competitive down the road on a global sphere. Because we're not. By all accounts and measures and results that I have seen, we're really behind the curveball on math and science. And so anyway, I mean, if there's a positive, that's what I would point out.
Okay, and let's stay with you for a second. I want to talk about, let's get out of Washington, and let's come closer to home, and let's come down to Tallahassee, where we have legislative sessions just getting underway now. I know that the Chamber has good intelligence on this sort of thing, and if not, maybe we're good mind readers. But what is the financial crunch going to do to education funding in the coming year via Tallahassee? Is there anything that we're going to see from Tallahassee this year? Is there anything that you see coming down the road?
You mean as far as additional funding for education?
Or additional or less, your choice.
Everything I've read is less. You know, they have a great task at hand, and they've had it for a couple of years, which is balancing a budget in the light of reduced revenues. And so the model that we as a state have been built on, which is forever growth, well, guess what? We're not growing. And so that model is broken, and the paradigm needs to be shifted. Is this the year where that's going to happen? I don't have a lot of hope for that. But again, we haven't had our fly-in yet. We'll be there next Wednesday. I can't wait to receive positive news, but I'm cautiously optimistic, maybe.
Eduardo, I know you have people in Tallahassee as
No,
well.
I just returned from Tallahassee. And the news are not good, but the willingness for people to stand up and make the right decisions. You know, we have in Florida a taxation system that is archaic, that dates back to the times when Florida was an agricultural state. And even 2 years ago, somebody suggested that if we take away the loopholes in the sales tax, which is the main source for money for education, that we could at least solve part of the problem. Well, they were not even willing to do that. And if you look at the sales tax exemptions, there are many, many of them hard to justify. And when you have people in leadership positions who are not even willing to look at that, we have a real serious issue. And the problem is bigger than that. Let's face it, we live in a community when only, and this is a very optimistic figure, which I debate, but only 57% of the students in our schools graduate, okay? Only 2/3 of those go on to post-secondary education, which means that about 60% of all the young adults in this community who finish school are on the street with no credentials. And even the ones with a high school diploma that do not go on are in for some treat, because the fact of the matter is that today with just a high school diploma, all you can hope to do, don't quote me on this on the paper, but it's flip burgers at McDonald's or Burger King.
You're being videoed and being quoted.
And frankly, only get the kind of jobs with very low salaries that are going to keep them in the cycle of poverty for the rest of your life. That's a real recipe for a real tragedy in this community. There is no way we can make a real progress here and attract the kind of industries that we need to do. Our main two industries in Florida right now is agriculture and tourism. And the wages in those industries, you know, are very low. And unless we're able to attract the high-wage, high-skilled jobs that are required for the 21st century knowledge economy, we're not going to be able to sustain the third largest state in the union at this point. So it's all about leadership. And that's what we seem to be, have a paralysis at this moment, and I just don't know how to say it.
Let me ask the whole panel, and you brought up a key point. When we have leadership, they have to be asking for something, and rather than just saying general funding, and we'll start with Doug at this end and work our way down the road, what percentage growth, if we could put a figure on it, do we need to get in the funding for our public school system today? I know you can't say exactly, but do we need to grow like 1% or quadruple the amount of spending? What is needed as a basic, not as an ideal, but what do we need basically to grow this?
You know, I'm not smart enough to answer that. Like I said, I've been around in this business a long time. I had years where we had, 12, 13% increase in budgets in 1 year, and I've had years, where we had budget cuts. And I think the fundamental, I don't think you're going to get, for the foreseeable future, dramatic improvements in funding.
You may not get it, but what do we need? What's our target? We don't know where we're going if we don't have a target.
Well, what I've tried to argue is that I think we need systemic change. I think that we need to dramatically improve our productivity, our effectiveness, and our efficiencies. And there are some significant things happening that are leading that direction. I'll give you an example. I'm a huge fan of community colleges, which are now colleges. My younger boy just graduated with a high school diploma and a 2-year college degree. And he did that through a dual enrollment program. He's a nice kid. He's not a brain surgeon. He's not a really, you know, he didn't do it because he's so super smart. It's just that socially he was uncomfortable in the high school setting, and it turned out that dual enrollment was a great fit for him. If I had my way, you know, there would be 10 times as many kids in dual enrollment, because I think a lot of kids are ready for dual enrollment. They're ready for college courses. You know, they don't get challenged at the high school level. We know that senior year is a mess. And so that's the kind of innovation. You know, why don't we give the college placement test at the end of 10th grade for thousands and thousands of kids and get a lot more kids into dual enrollment. Both my boys also spend a lot of time taking online courses. You know, that's the future. You know, what's interesting about my business is that you haven't seen the productivity gains in education that you've seen in a lot of other industries because of technology. Why don't we take this opportunity to really sit down and say, how do we use technology in a smart way to dramatically improve productivity in ways that have been happening in other industries? So, you know, I think it was the President's Chief of Staff who said when they first came into office that a financial crisis should never be wasted in terms of creating innovation. And I think, unfortunately, that's what's happening here, is we do have a financial crisis. We'll come out of it, but I don't think you're ever going to see, you know, the kind of things I saw when Bob Graham was governor. When he came through with 12, 14%. And I don't even know, Michael, again, I don't know if that would do it. But I do know that there are significant innovations we could engage in. I agree with Linda that we targeted investments in venture capital to allow teachers to become more creative about how do I use technology? How do I use online strategies? How do we use extended school years? How do we use extended school days? There are really innovative things happening around the country that we can learn from. We don't take those to scale. We lack the leadership to take those to scale, and as a result, you know, I don't know what the number is in terms of financial, but my belief is that you're always going to have a 57 to 60% graduation rate under the current system, as long as you're over-regulating teachers and parents and kids, and not using your human capital to its full potential. I don't think you can buy your way out of that system. I think you need a better system.
Eduardo?
Well, I don't think you can do it on the basis of a percentage or a number. What you have to look at is where is Florida in comparison to the other 49 states in terms of funding per student. And the fact is we're either 49th or even 50 at this point. And the question is, where do we as people of the state want to be in terms of funding for education? What are the priorities? And let me give you a perfect example. There are 28 state colleges in the state of Florida. We used to be called community colleges. 28 state colleges, okay, serving about 1 million students. I want you to know that the budget of the state of Florida for incarceration, for jails, is larger than the budget to support the 28 colleges and 1 million students. That tells you all. It's about priorities. It's about doing what's best for the citizens of the state. And so I don't believe we can find a percentage. That's very difficult to do. But it's in terms of setting goals and having enlightened public elected officials who live up to the expectations of the people.
Linda, your thoughts?
Well, like Eduardo was saying, I mean, we actually spend about $20,000 per year per prisoner.
No, it's much more than that.
Not much more than that. Well, the figure I had gotten was 20,000. I mean, I would be happy with $20,000 per student. But if you look at other countries,
What is our per student funding now?
$6,800.
She's rich.
I'm rich.
The school system is rich, and the universities are millionaires because we at Miami-Dade College get $2,900 per FTE, per student, in order to educate them. So that gives you an idea of where we are.
And you get tuition in addition.
Yeah, but that's,
So what I would say is take a look at other systems, not just around the country and where we're funding those, but take a look at like Finland. I mean, I agree with my colleague over there in terms of the teachers. What they did in Finland is they actually worked with their schools and actually changed the way teachers teach in schools. And they went from having one person applying for every position to now having 10 people apply for every position. Where we were #1 in terms of percentage of children graduating high school and graduating college, we're number 13 now across the world. Finland is up close to #1. So it's really a question of trying to do our best in terms of competing not only here in the United States, but across the country, across the world. And I see that our superintendent is here.
Now thank you, sir. Now that we said all the bad things about the public school system, Alberto Carvalho, the superintendent of public schools, and thank you so much for coming today. I know you've just gotten out of a board meeting and probably are completely fried at this point mentally, but
Yeah, it's like I need any more mic time, right?
we'll try to get you a little bit.